time for a new build series. So this time I will be building the USS Missouri BB-63 in the 1945 configuration using the Hobbyboss kit that I have done a review on before, and then using also this Pontos detail up set. We're starting out with the hull, installing the bilge keels, and there are no positive connections for those, so a bit tedious. Then the propeller wings that go on the rear, and the shafts for the propellers. There's some minor work to be done, sanding and so on the hull. Then I installed some nuts so I can put the ship on pedestals before moving ahead with the photo etch details from the Pontos set that goes onto the hull. There is both Pontos PE and PE from the kit itself, from the Hobbyboss kit. And I'm using scale colors for this build. I think the colors are really nice, but it is quite some problems using an airbrush with these colors, so I can't really recommend them. Then I'm starting out with pre-shading the hull, so we can at least have a glimpse of the panel lines when the hull is painted. So it's starting out with the above part, the horizontal part in haze gray, and then a navy blue for the rest before you have the boot stripe and the hull red. So here you can see that the panel lines are then slowly but surely being covered up, not of course completely. There's some transparency before moving ahead with some aluminium steel color for the propeller shafts and the anodes. Then starting out with the weathering of the hull. So using some different colors for the panel lines to accentuate those. So using also then white spirit to remove excess panel line. So this is what I'm aiming for in terms of the hull weathering. So I'm using some AK crust deposits in two different colors. And also adding some algae growth with the green color afterwards. This is the first time I used the crust deposit, so I'm fairly happy with the result. So maybe with some more practice it will be even better. So then it's time to start on the deck. There are some PE details that go on the bow area where you have the anchor chains, also drilling out and removing a lot of protruding parts from the deck itself, because I'm going to install the hull deck. The wooden deck from the Pontos set. And I'm also painting up all of these PE details that go on the deck before installing them. So then you get the crisp transition between the PE and the wooden deck itself. And as you can see, I'm also pre-painting the wooden deck before installing it. Then you have the possibility to tune a bit more. You don't have to mask off other details and so on. So I think at least that's an easy way to do it. So then I'm installing the plastic deck using Tamiya liquid cement, and as you can see, I've also pre-painted some of the protruding parts on the deck. So when installing the wooden deck, then there is no masking that needs to be done afterwards. So using just regular Gorilla wood glue to make the deck sit well, and well, there is glue on the backing paper, which you can of course use, but my experience is that over time that will loosen, so the glue would dry. So that's at least my tip for the day. Then installing the PE parts on the deck, lots of them, and preparing to install the deck details. So here you can see the bullnose has been installed together with the anchors, and you have a railing that's going on the bullnose as well, which is quite well, it takes a bit of time to get the bends correctly. Then I'm installing the capstans and preparing for installing the anchor chain itself. And then we had these capstans here that I saw from reference photos that were in a brass color, so I think that was a good addition as well to make the model somewhat more interesting to look at. Then you have the wildcats that are going on, so a lot of tiny details that are being added, so working from the bow area and backwards. Then of course you have the breakwater, which is from the resin, a resin part from the Pontos set, that is. And as you can see, I've also pre-painted all the parts before installing it. Otherwise you will have a lot of masking to do, and now you get at least some crisper lines. You have also a lot of different hatches and vents and so on that go on the deck, and all have been pre-painted before installing them. That is my general game plan. Then starting out with the superstructure, so drilling out all the portholes. That at least I think looks a bit better than just painting them. It gives kind of a depth. And here you also need to make sure that if you have both the Pontos set and the kit, make sure that you also use the PE details from the kit. Then I'm installing the different parts together. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible to paint. So I'm installing all of the different levels together. Also, there are a couple of gaps that you need to be aware of that need some putty and sanding. There are not that many such problems with this kit. It actually is quite a good fit with the different parts. So that was a pleasant surprise, at least. Then I'm painting up all the bulkheads in haze gray, and also as you can see, some of the areas are also in deck blue. So that's all horizontal surfaces. Then all the wooden decks have been installed on the different levels, and then you again have those PE details that go around the deck, so the drains on the sides. So a lot of nice sand work, I would say. Then you have the forward funnel. A lot of work was done on this one. You have a lot of different PE details, target givers, and so on that go on this one, and also this nice chimney part that where you can at least remove the plastic part and replace that with PE. It is definitely more to scale. I've seen some omitting this work, but it's not that difficult. So I would say it gives so much extra detail to the chimney that I would at least spend that time doing that work. Then you have the catwalks that go around, and also you can see a lot of nice PE details that are being where you're replacing the plastic parts, which would be just one big lump of plastic, really, in comparison with the PE work. Then you have these target directors that go on the side. So you have 4 of them going around on different parts of the ship. This is definitely detail work. As you can see, the parts are very tiny, so use some patience, and you will get a good end result. And very, it's very nice to see all those details. I think, at least, it gives me a lot of pleasure working with photo etch and brass. I don't know if it's both the details and something about the color or what, but it definitely gives me joy to work with, and definitely looking at the end result. So then you have also a set of instruments that are detailing up the air defense station, and then slowly but surely adding up the different levels. And as you can again see, I'm pre-painting parts and everything before installing them and putting them together, all trying to make the paint work as easy as possible, but also to get crisp lines between bulkheads and decks and so on. And this part is definitely requires some attention to get properly. So I would recommend to watch the build installments for this part if you're building this kit, at least. There are some gotchas here that you should be aware of. Also, some extra details on the sides here with the signal flag bags and so on. So then slowly but surely building up on top of the superstructure, adding all of the different levels on the funnel. And here you can see the end result of that work before moving ahead with the navigation bridge, where you also need to be aware of the sequence of how you paint things up and add the details. There are also these platforms that you need to be aware of. At least the kit that I had, there was a misalignment here with the forward funnel and these platforms, so that needed some adjustment later on when installing it to the ship. So that is something to be aware of. And then installing the different PE parts that go on the deck for the bridge itself. Also these bulkheads that go on the wing parts of the pilot house, and then installing this in this order at least gave me a good end result. You might have a good luck with other sequences as well, of course, but this I used a lot of time figuring out what the best approach here would be, so you get both good coverage of painting inside and not scratching up parts. That is always the danger, of course, when doing it in this way. And then you can see here that I'm adding some details afterwards, after installing the parts, and then you have the windows themselves, which is a very nice from a PE from Pontos, replacing those plastic ones, which are a bit out of scale. And then there are a lot of different small parts that go on, stairs and railings and so on. And again, here the sequence is very important. Otherwise, it will actually be impossible to install those railings when you add this top part, because the platforms rest on top of the railing. And then you have the installing the bridge on top of the superstructure, which is well, I needed to do some adjustments. As I said, these platforms on the side, that was quite cumbersome to figure out how to do that. So I ended up cutting off some stairs before being able to get the proper fit. It's not in any way visible, as you can see. But otherwise you will end up with a lot of gaps if you don't do that adjustment. And then we have the midship and the aft tunnel. All of these different parts that you can see in this full build, you can find build installments on, where you get more details on the different parts of the work, and also some inputs on how to do stuff. There we have the loading machine, which is definitely a project in itself, but again, these things add so much detail. And here I'm working on the midship part, where you have the gun tubs for the Bofors guns, and also the antennas that go on in the mid section. And again, the sequence here is important in terms of the paint work, and also being able to install those ammo racks in an easier way than installing the entire parts together and then adding the ammo racks. Then you have a lot of nice details that go on the bulkhead on the back side of the tubs. And then installing that sub-assembly onto the superstructure itself before adding those antennas and so on that go on this mid area, which probably has a good name. But again, and this is a combination of both plastic parts from the kit and PE parts from the Pontos set. And you, of course, you have two sides, so it takes a bit of time to get this in order. Then we have what should I call it? The back, the aft part, where you will have the funnel resting upon. You also have some of these floater net baskets that are placed around different places on the ship, which is of course all pre-built and painted. And then we have this nice mast that is also of course pre-painted in black, which it should be on the aft part of the ship. So doing some pre-painting, then installing them after it's painted, and of course you might need to do some touch-ups and so on to get things looking good. And then I'm going ahead with some rigging and weathering of the superstructure. I'm definitely doing a subtle weathering on this one. It's not going to... It wasn't a heavily... well, it is well maintained, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not like these guys are going to let their ship be in total disorder, at least. So some light weathering, I think, is the best one for this ship, at least. So both using some oil paints with white spirit or mineral spirit. And then also some of the naval weathering products from AK, and then using a slight moist brush to feather in those products. And then it's time for the rigging. So I'm using an anatomy of the ship for the Iowa class, or Iowa, which should be pretty close to what the USS Missouri had. So I'm using Uschi van der Rosten lines, and also the Easy Hobby, or the Epic Easy Hobby, the Epic Hobby lines, which are of metal. So those will be the horizontal ones, so you don't get too much strain on on that wire, because you have some vertical lines going down to the antennas in the midship area, and otherwise you would get some drag on that line if it was just an elastic one. So that's why I opted to go with the metal. Sorry. And then you have some rigging going on top of the navigation bridge. You could see that also in the anatomy of the ship. There are some lines going on there between the mast or the funnel area and the navigation bridge. So installing those vertical lines here from the horizontal ones down to the antennas. And then I'm marrying the superstructure with the hull itself. So I'm using E6000 to glue that one before starting off with more of the details that will go on the deck. And that is the catapults and the crane. So you have two catapults that go on the stern area of the ship. We're going to place two float planes in the same area. And these are totally replaced with photo etch from the Pontos set. A lot of nice photo etch work, I would say. I'm not bragging of my work, but I'm saying it's a good project, and it definitely is a lot more detailed and nicer than the kit plastic parts, as you can see here. And again, just look at that nice brass color. Then it's the crane itself. I would urge you to take a look at this installment. The sequence here is very important, and precision of adding those braces inside the crane is important to get a good result. And as you might have seen, I'm using a lot of thin CA glue. I think that gives the best result. You don't get a lot of blobs and so on, which would of course ruin the end result when everything is painted up and you want to see those nice details instead of the blobs, the glue blobs, that is. So then I'm adding the base for the crane, and this is a good time to again look at this installment. There are some things to be aware of in terms of alignment of the photo etch. And I've also added elastic lines to simulate the wires on the crane. And as you can see here, when I've painted this up, you can see that one on top. So that's at least gives an impression of something more. And then on top of the catapults, we have the Seahawks, so the Curtiss SE-1 Seahawks, the float planes. And this was, if you look at that installment, this was probably the most disappointing part of the kit itself. The plane kit is totally out of scale. The rudder, the tail, sorry, is way too thick. So if you have the Pontos set, you are able to fix it using photo etch. And otherwise also the decals for this one not good. You have some misalignments on the print itself, and well, it could have been better, but still I think that the end result was good. And of course, as always when working with clear parts, it is very hard to see mold lines and so on. So definitely take your time to prime things up, correct what you need to correct, sand and reprime, just to get a nice finish. And for this one I also used the Hataka paints. They had a set that was perfect for this project at least, and really easy to work with as well. So I can definitely recommend those paints. So then adding the canopy, which is PE. I also painted a bit of the inside colors, so it looks like there is something going on inside the canopy and not just bare blue, deep blue color inside. So this was the end result. Of course, I made two, and also here I replaced the antenna lines with elastic lines. And then the guns. And as I mentioned in this installment about the guns, this has been something I have been working on during the entire project, and I would definitely recommend doing so. Start early on. Usually on these battleships, there are a lot of guns that needs to be built, and that can be quite tedious, and you can lose motivation after making 20, 40, 50 guns of one type. So start early, and they will be ready when you are ready to put them on the ship. And I for this one, the 5-inch guns, I also looked at reference photos and painting the inside with a brass color. And the Bofors guns and the Oerlikon guns, I've used Bunker Studio 3D printed ones. I think that the details on the Bunker Studio guns are really good, and they're not too difficult to get off the supports. I'm using an ultrasonic knife from Sonic Saber to help out on that work, so it doesn't take too many minutes per gun at least. And here you can see the late Oerlikon type edition, so be aware of that if you order 3D printed ones, that you get the correct type for the era that you are building for. And then painting up the barrels, just used regular NATO black before moving ahead with the main turrets. You have 3 of them, of course, and there is a lot of nice tiny details that go on this one if you're using the Pontos set. So here I'm adding this the deck on top, and doing some. I had to do some adjustments on that one before. Well, there is a lot of tiny parts that isn't shown in this one, so look at the installment if you want to see the entire build of the turrets. And of course this is also with the Pontos parts. This is not just the Hobbyboss kit ones. So also I'm marking up all the different parts so they fit together with the turret number, because you have some of the ladders, for example, that go on the backside of the gun tub that needs to be aligned. So make sure that you do that per turret. So then it's the fun job of adding the barrels. So I'm using E6000 for this as well, just to give me time to do adjustments, and then letting the barrels rest on top of something, letting it cure for 24 hours. So then you have at least a good bond, and if you have done the job correctly, it shouldn't be too difficult. It is difficult to get the proper and good alignment, but still doing it properly gives you the end result that you want. So now I'm on the finalizing phase, adding all of those tiny or the missing parts. Yes, they are all tiny. So the fenders that we have here, just painted them up in a brown orangey color, and also you have all the support beams and so on for the platforms around the ship that needs to be installed at this stage. Of course, you could have added them before putting down the superstructure, but that I saw that was a good idea not to do that, because the support beams might have different heights. Then also adding the davits for the boats that go on. I'm not shown any builds of that. Of course, placing the flags, and I've also placed some signal flags. And they are only meant to show NMB for Norwegian Modeling Bench, so it's not the proper signals. So sorry for those that seafarers and would like to see the correct signals, this is just a way for me to mark that it's Norwegian modeling bench, a Norwegian modeling bench build. Adding all the railings, and quite a lot of them around the entire ship. And as I mentioned before, I don't like to use masking tape and so on for this, but just get the proper fit for the first part with regular CA glue, sorry, and then using thin CA glue when following the rest of the rail, so to say. So one part at a time, making sure that it actually has a good alignment towards the hull and so on, and then putting then thin CA glue at one part at a time. And then of course you had a placement of all the different guns, the Bofors, the Oerlikons, the 5-inch guns, and of course then at the end the main turrets. It is a good thing to do it at this stage because those barrels are really fragile and easy to knock off. So wait as long as possible before adding those, or else I can guarantee you that you will knock off a couple of them during your build at least. So then adding and gluing down the crane, adding the main turret. So actually I show here that I'm using liquid cement. I didn't get the proper bond on that one. So I actually used PVA glue instead on them as well. And as you can see here, I'm using PVA for the catapults. So that gives you definitely a lot better time in terms of positioning. Could use, of course, E6000 for this as well, but well, I had PVA at my hand, and this is PVA from VMS actually, which I can also recommend. Dries very transparent and gives a good result. So adding the planes, and here we have the final product. I hope that you liked this installment and all the build installments. So in total, I think I've spent like 300 to 400 hours on this build. So you might say it's quite a lot, but it is a medium project, I would say. The Hobbyboss kit, I think, is actually quite good. The details that you can see when it's all painted up is very good, and the general fit is also very good. There are some things that needs to be done on the walls on the superstructure. Then you have the platforms around the navigation bridge. Those are the main ones, and then you have, of course, the alignment on the mid section, or really, well, the forward funnel, where you need to make sure that things are properly squared up. Otherwise, a really good kit. You could build a really good model just out of the box. Adding the Pontos set, that definitely takes it to the next level, and I think it was a really good kit from Pontos as well. So I hope it gave you a bit of an insight in my build at least. Hope that it gave you some inspiration and motivation for your build. So until next time, stay safe.